Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Dan Perks, Operations Manager for City Highways at Westminster City Council. I'm joined by Ivan Farrell, who is the Performance Manager for FM Conway, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about the work we've done around reclaimed asphalt and our wider approach to reducing carbon in Westminster. So just for those of you who aren't aware, Westminster is a central London borough. It's probably the most central. It features a lot of the sort of famous landmarks of London, so Trafalgar Square, Parliament, Buckingham Palace, and also commercial areas such as the West End. But as well as all of that activity, we've also got a lot of residents in Westminster, particularly up in some of the northern areas of the borough. So there's contrasting stakeholders, and there is a lot to consider when planning works within our environment, it's fair to say. A bit of backstory of sort of resurfacing in the borough. So traditionally, Westminster has been very much hot rolled and chips. That's been the material of choice for almost all resurfacing, for many years now. There have been trials of other material, most notably the SMA trial in around 2014. I think that probably reflects when a lot of other authorities would have also been trialling the material. Our experience wasn't great. I think others had similar issues in that we had unraveling of SMA, and the perception of it and the perceived failure of that trial meant that we as an organisation probably came a little bit nervous around trialing new materials. So that's the backdrop as to how we got to where we are. That all changed really when the City Council declared a climate emergency last year, with some quite ambitious targets. So one of those being that we would be carbon neutral in our own activities, so including all our highways works by 2030, and further than that, that we'd actually make the city in general carbon neutral by 2040. So with ambitions like that, it was clear that actually just doing what we've always done and just saying we lay hot rolled and chips because we always have just wasn't really gonna cut it there. So we decided we needed to really put carbon front and center of everything that we were doing, and our resurfacing works is a big part of that. And so we looked at what can we do around asphalt, and working with Conway's, our service provider, we started to go to work on some alternative materials, which Ivan's going to just run you through quickly.
Thank you, Dan. At FM Conway, we pride ourselves on being a service provider. We like to collaborate with our clients and give them advice and experience that we have, rather than just the traditional contractor relationship where we just work to spec. We're looking to improve what's going on out there. As Dan mentioned there, the HRA specification was used on pretty much every street in Westminster, no matter what the usage of that street or the size of it. So we started about 5 years ago, starting to look at, well, okay, how can we as a team get the right material into the right places? HRA is a really good all-round material. But in some locations in Westminster, the residential areas, it's over-specced because of the chips. You just don't get the high speeds that need that. And in other areas, such as on heavily trafficked bus routes, it's prone to rutting. So for us as a team, it was, okay, well, how can we get this right? How can we make it work better, get the longevity out of those works and reduce the revenue spend by reducing the number of defects? Our team over at Gravesend in the Technology Centre have done a lot of R&D on sort of PMBs, the polymer modified bitumens, and on recycled materials. And we've got 6 asphalt plants across the southeast. So we've done a lot of work in actually trying to produce some alternatives out there. There's been a lot of innovation going on. And the main project probably works best in our urban environment is the shore layer material, which contains 50% recycled material. This was first trialled on the TfL contract in Mill Hill back in 2016, and the following year there was another trial done on the A40 down in West London. Both of these were seen to have worked very successfully, and it sort of brought it into our mind's eye of, okay, can we help other clients with this? Would it work better sort of on some of our other networks? It was trialled first in Westminster by one of our colleagues on a local safety scheme, a small little area on Millbank, quite close to Parliament. That worked really well. In particular, it went down in November time, which traditionally is one of the failings of HRA, which doesn't work so well when the weather starts to get a bit colder, and it needed to get in and get the work done at that time. So that worked really well for us. So we monitor that very, very carefully. We started a working group with the client. We visited a couple of our asphalt plants with some of the key players. We got our technical manager involved and some outside expertise as well from Derby University, Helen Bailey. And we looked to see, okay, would this work elsewhere for us? And on our planned preventative maintenance programme, an opportunity arose on Bayswater Road. As some of you may know, it's a main road leads you into Marble Arch and Oxford Street and Park Lane, and it's quite a busy route. The works on Bayswater Road would have involved the full closure and obviously all the disruption, particularly to buses and traffic coming in and out. So those works had been put back a number of times until we could find the right solution. And when we suggested we use the shore layer, because there is no chipping machine, means that you can actually get away with directional closures. That was sold to the client. They were very happy to trial it, to see how that worked. And when we went out on site, we were able to half the amount of time we spent on site and get it open a lot quicker. We continued the monitoring of that. That's still perfect as of this day. Obviously less disruption for everyone on site, and there's potential savings by using this material because it's a 70 mil single layer, so you're actually excavating less. So we brought this out into the wider environment. We spoke amongst ourselves about, okay, can we do other trials? What else can we do? And on our PPM program, we had Sutherland Avenue the following year. Now this is a mainly residential street. It's got medium usage. There's no bus routes on there. But you may see on the picture there is some parking on the central reservations. But we felt that we could actually start pushing the boundaries, and we attempted a nationwide first of actually getting 80% recycled material into the surface layer. So to make sure that this was going to be possible at design stage, we called the street, made sure it would work at 70 mil. And then we looked to see, okay, well, let's not go for a complete 80% in one go. So we trialled on the southbound side there, the usual 50% that we'd use in Bayswater Road, and we managed to get it to 80% on the northbound side. We did that by using locally sourced materials actually coming out of the network and other surface dressings. To us, this is very much the approach of using that circular economy and actually just using the street as our quarry and not using primary materials for everything. With that came a lot of lab testing, and a full report was produced on that. But some of the benefits that we saw was that the program was shortened by 4 days, 50% less man hours on the job. We calculated 50 less vehicle movements and essentially 500 tons of material saved going in, and obviously the carbon benefits associated with that. But again, before we decided that yes, we can use this elsewhere, we had to make sure there was a thorough monitoring regime in there, and I think Dan's going to add a little bit.
Yeah, cheers, Ivan. So, yeah, as Ivan mentioned, you know, we're keen to push the boundaries. We want to try new things, but we also have to, you know, make sure that what we're doing is working. What we don't want is to be laying a load of stuff and then having to take it up within a few years, because that doesn't do anyone's carbon footprint or budget any good. So we have a monthly monitoring regime of all of these 80% sites. And there's a list of a few of the tests that we do. You guys probably know these tests better than me, to be honest. So torque bond test, surface texture test, which we did initially, then 12 months, and then 24 months. Rolling straight edge, water sensitivity, and scrim. So far, you know, it's been all good. Everything's worked as it should do. Tests have all come back perfectly well, and we're happy with the stuff that we're laying so far. And actually, you know, I think that anecdotally, the 80% in this location actually looks like it may be performing better than the 50% even. So yeah, we're very happy with how the trial's gone so far. I'll just talk to you, Arvin, you talk about this design matrix.
Sure. So following on from our work along here, we spoke again about how can we get the best material into the best place, and this wasn't about completely getting rid of HRA and replacing it with shore layer. It was making sure that what we would put down would last, so it would have the life cycle in there, and it would be the right material for that particular location. So we've developed a matrix based on the various street usages and characteristics. So when we get our full program at the beginning of the year, we walk the site with the client and with our technical managers, and we look to see what's there. Is it heavy usage street? Is it a shopping area? And then from there, we kind of work out, well, what will be the best material to go down. So we've got 7 different mixes. The top one you may be able to see on the main there is our shore lane, which is our heavy duty material. It's almost airfield spec, and we've recently used that down on Whitehall. That material isn't prone to rutting, so helps us cure that problem where we were finding issues on bus routes. Again, like I said, we've not taken hot roll out of the equation at all. It still is a very good product and works in several locations. And particularly, we wouldn't dream of putting a new product in if the surrounding area was all HRA. It's all very much about keeping the look and feel of the network. Our shore layer, of course, that's our low carbon mix, which particularly has come to the fore since the carbon emergency, and how can we use that more just to lower our carbon footprint in what we're doing. Great. And there's several other sort of mixes that we have included that give you a better sort of a run along the carriageway, which we tend to put in the sort of the more exclusive areas. But to be honest, we are really pushing the carbon benefit of the shore layer as being our main material of choice at the moment. And with that as well, this year we've managed to change our whole process, that everything that we're doing, with the exception of the hot roll surface layer, is a warm mix material. So you get all the benefit there of less energy usage, and also there's less elasticity used in the makeup of the bitumen, which we're hoping will, in the long run, see us have a more durable product. So on the back end of last year's programme, we looked to see if we could push the boundaries even further and get the full benefit of what these new materials can do. And down on 3rd Avenue, which again, as you can see from the picture, is a residential area not far from Sutherland, we looked to implement 85% recycled material across the whole of the street. And this was very successful for us. Again, the same benefits we saw previously. There's fewer fewer plant on there, less noise and disruption for the neighbours. There's less pollution because of that. We've got reduced vehicle movements. We use the warm mix to reduce that carbon, like I said, and we also included an odour suppressant. We're able to return the parking quicker to residents because it's a single layer treatment. So it's all the benefits that we can produce at this moment in time in one hit. And as you can kind of see there, very similar benefits. Again, we saved again half the time on site that we would have done with HRA and all the other plant associated with that.
Thanks, Simon. That's brilliant. I suppose we just wanted to touch on a few of the other initiatives we've got, not necessarily sort of directly linked to asphalt, but asphalt features in a big way as all of them. So I've mentioned previously our carbon working group, I believe. So that is a cross-organisation group. So there's people from Westminster, people from Conways, as well as other service providers that we use. So NRP, Metis and WSP all played a part in that. And out of that, we have developed sort of two spin-offs. So there's a operational carbon group, which is working on how we can reduce operational carbon, so the use of electric plant wherever possible. Working group, which is all around the material choices that we use. So partly asphalt, but also, you know, what paving slabs are we using? What concrete are we specifying? What depth of concrete are we actually thinking about what we're specifying rather than just doing what we've always done? And that has been a success so far. One other thing to mention is the LED rollout. So we're in the process of switching all of our lamp columns to LED lanterns. We should be complete in that by the end of this financial year. That brings, I think, around 50% carbon savings with it. So that is obviously a massive positive in our quest to become carbon neutral by 2030. One other aspect that has come out of the carbon working groups has been a carbon calculator that we have developed alongside NRP and Metis. So this tool allows us to essentially attribute a embodied carbon value to everything in our schedule of rates. So in the same way that we can build up a bill of quantities price wise, we can also do the same in terms of the carbon associated with all of our projects. So that has meant that we are now in a position that we can actually start to really baseline the amount of carbon that we're using and then see where improvements can be made. And one of those improvements is a low carbon street, which Ivan will talk you through now.
Thanks, Dan. So last year, during lockdown, we found it a really good opportunity to actually sit down and give ourselves some thinking time, and really bring all the teams together and work out, okay, well, what can we do as a team to reduce the carbon? And obviously that starts from design right the way through to how things are delivered on site, how they are then installed on site, and the life cycle of that also. But what we were able to do on King Street, again, it was one of our PPM footway schemes. It's quite a traditional model of we just take up and relay the same material back down again. What we were able to do was slightly tweak that. So there wasn't a lot of design. We came up with a thinner slab, a slightly shallower foundation with some low carbon concrete in there. So we were able to make savings on our embodied carbon, which basically is in the materials, but we also did a big exercise and we banned diesel from site. So we only use electric excavators and tools on site. And we also made sure that deliveries were coming to site on either electric vehicles. You can see there's a cargo bike there in one of the pictures for consumables. Our supervisors would only come to site in electric vehicles, and our teams would have to use public transport. So we really look to see, we pushed the boundary as much as we could on our operational side of things. And where vehicles couldn't be electrified, for example, we specified that we would use HVO instead, which is roughly half the carbon output of diesel. So our results we were extremely pleased with. We managed to save 79% on our operational carbon alone. And like I say, if we can start developing some larger vehicles, we can really push that to nearly 100%. The embodied carbon, as Dan says, we're working within the working groups at the moment to see, well, how can we further reduce this? At the moment, do we keep the same look and feel, or do we sort of go radical and start looking at completely either reusing materials or looking at other low carbon options? In terms of asphalt on this one, we actually used our green patch cold lay solution along the curb line instead of the usual hot roll or whatever the material was in the street. So we were very pleased with these results, and looking this year now to build on that and building up sort of a program of how can we reduce the cost in this to make it more cost effective for the client. Can we use HVO in our other larger plants? So that's something we're exploring as well, if that can be brought into the carriageway.
Brilliant, thanks. So yeah, that was just a quick run through of the stuff that we're doing in Westminster. Thanks all for your time. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. We'll both be around to take questions now, but if there's any sort of detailed questions or you want to have a chat offline, then our details are there, and feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to talk in a bit more detail with anyone. But thanks a lot. Cheers.
Lovely.